Hi everyone, it's Stephen Handisides here from MyFaceMyBody, and we're continuing our theme of the modern face of beauty. And I have a very special guest and a good friend of mine, Dr. Sharma from Skin Rejuvenate, all the way in Perth. Now, for any of you that don't know where Perth is, Doctor, where is it?
Perth is probably the most isolated city in the world. I think it actually is. It's in Western Australia, in Australia. It's a bit of a coastal town, but there's definitely people here, I promise you.
Well, I wanted to interview you for our consumer audience because you're doing some pretty amazing things. You know, you set up a practice. You know, you've won awards. But the great thing with you is that you're continuously traveling around the world, really sort of continue to grow yourself and educate, and you've had a real special interest in liposuction, and on this show, I mean, I really want to explore with you, some of the, back in the past, the traditional ways, and now, some of the new techniques of, where this whole, liposuction, body shaping has really gone. So just tell me a little bit about sort of what was your special interest in lipo? Why was it this particular procedure?
Look, liposuction has always interested me because of the art of liposuction. Obviously, there's a lot of cosmetic procedures out there. There's breast implants, etc. But there's a lot of people say that liposuction is one procedure where the art is so important, that everyone does it so differently, that an artistic eye is so important. So given my creative side and my scientific side, being a doctor, I thought that liposuction would be the thing to approach and do. So another thing that inspired me is that I was watching a Louis Theroux documentary. A lot of people out there are probably familiar with Louis Theroux, and he was having liposuction without being sedated on TV, and I thought, that is fascinating. I'd love to do that. I'd love to have that, and I probably will, to be honest, and I'd love to offer that.
Yeah. I think I saw that episode, and he was away, and he was sort of smiling and curious, and I think it looked a little bit unusual, probably to people that think that you're constantly, out to it, so you wouldn't actually know that it's actually going on, and you wake up and you've lost a few pounds. But so I mean, just for a lot of consumers out there that are really sort of considering wanting to have something like liposuction, I mean, what do you think? I mean, what is your typical patient really that you'd be looking at for liposuction?
So look, liposuction is a treatment modality available to all ages, really, and the idea is stubborn pockets of fat. So it doesn't matter if you've got a few extra kilos on you, it doesn't matter if you're relatively slim, but if there's stubborn areas of fat that you just can't get rid of, despite how much you exercise, then liposuction is the way to go. The liposuction or fat treatment industry is growing very fast. In America, it's the most popular surgical procedure is liposuction. And in Australia, it's had the most growth over the past years. So it's grown by 5% over the past year, overtaking the growth in everything, including breast implants. So it's back and it's here to stay.
And I think, you bring up a good point as well, and I think it's, and I hope everyone's listening out there, liposuction and all these new sort of non-surgical technologies is to help with stubborn areas of fat. It's not there as a weight loss treatment, isn't it? Because I've seen so many patients get disappointed, and they go and see the practice, and they want to lose all this fat and these pounds, and they get sent away because it's not there, is it, as a weight loss treatment?
No, exactly. And weight loss treatments are like gastric sleeves and things like that, but liposuction is not a weight loss treatment. It's a body sculpting method.
Now, Dr. Sharma, now there's a couple of myths out there, and I'd love you to bust these for us a bit. Is that if you suck fat from one area, does that mean you're going to grow it in another area?
No, that's a very common myth.
Oh, okay.
So really, the way we put on fat in an area and we lose fat is fat cells enlarging and shrinking. That's how they work. So if you've got an area where you've got stubborn fat, you've got more fat cells that are all enlarging together and giving the appearance of more fat in that region. So the idea with liposuction is we suck out some of those fat cells, so they're gone forever, so that you have a more proportional level of fat cells in that area. So that if you do gain weight, it's going to be applied more universally to your body rather than focusing in a certain area. So no, you're not going to suddenly put on that weight somewhere else. Those fat cells are removed and they're removed forever.
Okay. So, I mean, what do you think of where technology has gone today? I mean, we always remember many, many years ago, the traditional liposuction, but what are some of the technologies that have really come about that you think have been very effective and that you're thinking about sort of carrying out in your practice?
So look, liposuction's been around for 40-odd years, and it started with standard liposuction where you use a cannula, which is a long, thin rod with some suction applied to it that can suck out the fat cells. Then a man called Klein invented something called tumescent liposuction. The idea of tumescence, and the word tumescent means hard, is that we pump anesthetic solution into the fat area and the fat cells absorb the anesthetic and they become hard. And when they're hard, they're easier to find and they're easier to suck out. So then the emphasis on liposuction moved towards tumescent liposuction. And it was used to be done under general anesthetic, and more people are doing awake liposuction or under sedation. In recent years, there's been a hype over things like vasoliposuction or cool sculpting. There's a lot of machines out there, a lot of very costly machines out there, may I add, those costs which are passed on to the consumer. So if I go into vasolipo initially, I spent a month in Harley Street in London doing some training with the top plastic surgeons there, and we had quite some complications from vasoliposuction. So look, Vasa uses a heated cannula that is sucking fat out. Now, the problem with a heated cannula inside your body is that if you leave it in one area for too long, it can give burns and divots. So that you're restricted by how much fat you can take out because there's only a certain period of time that the cannula can be inside your body. More traditional liposuction uses vibrational cannulas. So it's removing the fat by the cannula moving back and forth. That doesn't create burns. There's no rush to get the cannula out. So you can spend more time there crafting and using your time to perfect the art of giving that smooth, sculpted appearance. Then you come on to more technologies recently like cool sculpting, or there's lots of machines which are very expensive, and they can use laser energy, they can use ultrasound, they can use cold, so they can use freezing the fat cells to get rid of them. The problem with those technologies is, number one, they're very expensive. So almost as expensive as liposuction to add. They don't work that well. The gold standard for removing fat is liposuction. It works, it's reliable. Something like a machine that sucks onto your flank, look, it might remove a little bit of fat. It may lead to some contour irregularities depending on the size of the piece that is put onto your flanks, but it's not that effective. And look, I'm a perfectionist, so when I do something, I like doing it well. So I thought I don't want to mess around with things that, number one, are going to cause problems to patients like burns, and number two, that aren't going to do the job. So I thought, look, we're going to go with tumescent liposuction. It's tried, it's tested, it works. It's what I'm going to do for myself. It's what I trust to have done on my body, and that's what I will do on other people. So that's the angle that I'm headed.
Yeah, look, I think, there's, all these new technologies out there. I think, there is a place for it. I mean, you've got, as you say, the heat technologies, which is more your radio frequency, and then, this cool technology like cool sculpting and stuff. And I mean, the marketing has really driven the awareness of, these body sculpting type of procedures. But it is very much hit and miss, really, in terms of how effective it is. I mean, I think would you ever consider then possibly like combination types of treatments with a mixture of both, or would you stick to one or the other?
I think in the future I do want to offer some combination technology. So initially I want to have the best technology, the stuff that is not just hype, but it's got the science and the results behind it. And then for people who want maybe to dabble in the industry of fat loss, a cool sculpt machine, for example, so they can give it a try. They can see it. I can present my knowledge to them that this is how effective I think this is how effective I think this is, and they can make the decision. So I do want to have an entire body sculpting range available, really, but start with the best of the best.
So just if people are considering having some form of liposuction, what would be the typical procedure time and sort of the recovery time on a procedure like that?
Yeah, so liposuction can take anywhere from a couple of hours to 7 hours, believe it or not. Wow. 7, 8 hours, really. So it depends on the areas that we're doing. So if, for example, someone wants an abdomen done, so an upper and lower stomach area, then probably could do that in 2 to 3 hours, assuming all the preparation time, being nice and thorough, doing it well. Once we start adding on things like flanks or the back or the legs, that adds on hours and hours to the procedure. Then you have the whole concept of fat transfer. So that is when we do the liposuction, intraoperatively we purify the fat, and then we inject it back into you, most commonly in the buttock region or the breast region. So if we doing fat transfers, can easily take 7 hours or so. Wow. Exhausting, but at the end of it, it's really worth it.
I love that. I mean, how good is that? You take fat from a place you don't want it and then re-inject it back into an area that you do want it. So
now in terms of recovery times, I recommend people to wear their compression garments for 6 weeks. You leak some of that tumescent fluid probably about 4 or 5 days. And after that, after about a week, you're good to go back to work, maintaining wearing the garment, of course. After having the procedure, after an hour, you're home. So you'd wait in my operating theatre, make sure that you're okay, that your blood pressure and things are fine, and then after that, you'd be good to go home. So in terms of that, you bounce back very quickly.
Great. That's super. So, Doctor, I mean, tell me, you've got some pretty exciting news. I would love our listeners to know about you've got one of your clinics, which is in Perth, which you do a lot of the injectables and a lot of non-surgical treatments. But you're launching something pretty exciting, a second location, isn't it? And it's going to be really focused around liposuction and delivering some great technologies.
Yes, so it's been in the works for about 1.5 years, but we've got WA's biggest health department accredited liposuction clinic about to open up by the end of this year. It'll be, like I said, the largest in Western Australia. It's going to have a dedicated operating theatre designed to perform liposuction all up to health department regulations. So the key is you'll be safe, it's brand new, it's top of the range.
Great. So just finishing off, I mean, look, what if people wanted to, consumers wanted to come and see you, I mean, where are your locations and what's your website address?
So we're located in Mount Lawley at the moment, and the next clinic is in East Perth, so just a stone's throw away from Mount Lawley. Interestingly, we're open till 10 p.m. every single day, so people find that hard to believe.
Wow.
But
Wow.
Look, my team and I are workaholics, and we really enjoy it. So we're open ridiculous hours, including Sundays. In fact, straight after this podcast, I've got patients lined up. So there you go. It's like Stephen said, it's called Skin Rejuvenate Cosmetic Clinic. Our website is www.skinrejuvenate.com.au, and our number is 63235180. So we perform all the injectable treatments to a very high standard, and liposuction, there you go.
Hey, great. Thank you so much. I know our consumers and our listeners have really loved listening to your take on liposuction and what you'll be carrying out. And you come from a very credible source, and you do your research. I know that, so it gives us everyone confidence that if they come and see you, they're going to get good results.
Thanks, Stephen. Thanks for having me.
Thanks very much.